and I'll be your facilitator for today's session, along with my able co-facilitator, Iman Mahfouz from Greenish Foundation. She is the project's manager. Just a quick housekeeping rule. You have diverse speakers on the call, so it will be good to move into a room where you can understand the language. So quickly click on the interpretation button below your screen and select one of the languages from the menu. You can also choose whether or not you like to hear the original audio. You could mute the original audio so it doesn't interfere with what you are listening to, and kindly take some time and do that right now. It's very important to move to the room where you'll be comfortable. I assume we are all there. Thank you so much for joining this important conversation, and we look forward to a fun and a very inspiring webinar. Feel free to use the chat, introduce yourself, tell us your name, where you're joining us from, create contacts, share ideas in the chat, and it'll be good to have someone of this call that I didn't even know. Zoom right into the purpose of today's webinar. GAIA, with the support from the Plastic Solutions Fund, has been funding projects across Africa that advance environmental justice and zero waste strategies. And these grants have empowered grassroots and national organizations to develop inclusive, climate resilient zero waste models, resulting in inspiring success stories in Africa. And at this point of our grant cycle, today's webinar is a chance for implementing organizations to reflect on their journey, share lessons learned, and celebrate their achievements. So we do really appreciate your time, and we look forward to a rich, reflective conversation. Before we proceed, we would like to take a very beautiful group photo. So it'll be good if you can turn on your cameras for a few minutes, if you are able to. So we take a very beautiful photo and keep to reflect on this day. I'll hand over to the comms team.
All right. Thank you very much, Amma. So we will be taking a screenshot. Can we all put on our cameras if we can? Amma, I think your video is highlighted. Okay, I'm coming. Okay. Okay, so don't worry, I've been able to correct it. Yeah, so let's just put up a smile. So maybe we can give just 2 seconds more to wait for the others. Okay. All right. So we go in 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think this is good.
Thank you so much, Khalil. Those were beautiful smiles. You all look so good. Thank you so much. I appreciate the moment. You continue with the webinar, and I'll hand over to Iman.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Amma, for giving me the space. Allow me to introduce myself again. My name is Iman. I'm a project manager at Greenish Foundation and also a member of GAIA and BFFP Africa. And now we will move to our presentation segment. Each speaker will have 15 minutes. Please track your time. So they will share their reuse stories from Africa. Let's begin with our first speaker, Frank Sekyere. Frank is a sustainability advocate and programs manager at Upcycle It Ghana, working at the intersection of zero waste, circular economy, and community transformation. Upcycle It Ghana is a community-driven organization confronting the deeper question behind waste, not only what we threw away, but why we still choose to burn what can be transformed. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you all very much. It's an honor to share our story with you all. Thank you. Okay. So in Ghana, we burn dump or bury our textile, our waste in general. I just want you to, before we begin this story, our project, which is called Prevent the Smoke, I just want you to picture the smell. If you walked past the burning rubbish piled in Accra along our lagoon near neighborhood markets, then you would know the smell that I am talking about. It is quite thick, it's very harsh, and it's also chemical. It's a kind of smell that follows children to schools in their clothes and follows workers into their offices. And for too many communities in Accra, the smell is just normal. It's if you come across those smells, it's just like a normal Monday or Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. Our project is called Prevent the Smoke, not because smoke is the only problem, but because smoke is what we see when all is said and done. When there is no collection, when there is no segregation, when there is no reuse and no care. The smoke seems to be the last chapter. So we'll just tell you about our interventions through the help of GAIA and how those small interventions has caused significant impacts with just simple one bottle, one garment, and just one young person being trained. Next slide, please. So yes, I want you to work with me or travel with me together throughout this story. Yeah. Uh, we are going to go through the rationale of the projects. We are going to tell you why we started it, and we also tell you about what we achieved through it, the the walls that we face as we progress, and then we will tell you about the lessons that we learned and which we take a cue from in our subsequent projects that we'll be implementing. And then, of course, we'll also tell you about our future plans and how these projects will be sustainable. Next slide, please. This is how we approach the projects. We approach it in a way that will help us reduce open burning and waste and landfill dependence. We also approach it to promote zero waste practices such as reuse and repurposing, and also build a climate leadership among youth and communities. Then also to encourage sustainable consumption of plastic and textiles. Next slide, please. So the first project we implemented was a refill and reuse initiative in schools. If you come to Ghana, and I'm sure it is for many other African countries, the picture you see, the first picture you see on your left is the normal where people drink water. They drink it from single-use sachets piled up over there like that. And the effect is what is in the second picture, clogging our drainage and causing detrimental effects to the environment. Right. So you could just picture a child sitting in a classroom with and very, very tasty and wants to get water. She will then reach out into a bag, and what she picks up is the single-use plastic. Or perhaps get to a vendor and then go and grab that same single-use plastic. And after drinking without hesitation, just throws it on the floor. And to the child, it's just something normal. It's not something that tickles her to see that, oh, there's a trouble with it, because after all, everyone is doing their parents, the neighborhood. It's just the norm over there. What the Reuse Refill initiative sought to do was to cause a change in these early learners in schools. So we went to these schools trying to educate them and sensitize them on the need for them to practice reuse and refill. So we donated single-use, uh, we introduced reusable bottles to every child within the schools that we visited, and then also stationed refill sentence refill sentence within those schools just to promote a reuse and refill among these early learners in schools. And the impact was enormous. Yes. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Among the beyond the problem of the plastic that we have over here is the issue of the textile waste. Tons and tons of garments arrive in our country every week. Ghana hosts the largest second-hand clothing market in the world, not in Africa, but in the world. About 50 million tons of items arrive in Ghana every week. And those items, before they even arrive, 40% of it is waste, which means it will either be buried or burnt. And what happens to this waste? It goes back to where it goes back to the environment, into our water bodies. If you see the first picture was a crisis that happened to us in 2022, where these markets that I'm talking about, we having received all these textiles every week. A day we woke up one day and all this market was burnt into ashes. Everything that people have worked for was reduced into ashes. So you can see community members over there, struggling to find what valuable is left of the ashes, right? And our shop at Upcycle It Ghana was found over there. But the intervention was that we initiated the Accra Cloth Banking initiative where we receive clothes from the general public, the clothes that will have otherwise entered into our rivers or our landfills. We collect them and then we repurpose them into other valuable products, into shoes, and then into other products like bags. And then we also encourage the swapping. If you have clothes you no longer want to wear, but it's fairly used, you can do the clothes swap. So that is also a reuse initiative that we came about. For some of the other initiative, we have to also donate it to people who really need it, the rehabilitation centers and to children homes. Next slide, please. Next is capacity building. It's important that we, having known the skill, do not keep it to ourselves, but train other people so that they are also able to practice it, so that the skill is shared and everybody in every single household is able to upcycle their clothes or promote reuse within their communities. So we brought together a cohort of young people and women and train them on how they can repurpose this waste into valuable products and not just it protecting the environment, but also help them gain a livelihood from it. So we now have entrepreneurs, people who now have upcycling brands or who have textile brands because they now know how to repurpose their waste and make valuable things from it. Thank you. Next slide. Yes, and this had to also go into the communities and then the schools as well. So we went into the schools, teaching them on how they can as well repurpose their clothes. So in every community and in every schools, we go there from time to time and we train them and we train them on how they can practice these initiatives as well. Next slide, please. Yes, but just as vital is also this initiative or activities where we go into the beaches. So having recover the materials from the onset, the problems that have already been caused, we go into communities and try to do organized beach cleanups, organized brand auditing, and then yes, to make sure the problem that has been caused is rectified. We also brought about a competition where these early learners are able to, draw. It's a competition where they are able to make some artworks from the waste and also draw a future of Ghana where there is no burning and we do not see waste as it is now. Yeah, so this is also another initiative that we embarked on. Yeah, so if you see the fourth picture, you notice how intensive the problem is. So all the sacks you see is are waste that is being collected from our beach, and that's how devastating and how detrimental it is to our water bodies and the environment. Next slide, please. So yes, it's good that we share in the stories, but we know that it's also about investment. So let's talk about numbers on what we are able to do within this project. So at least we distributed about 200 reusable bottles to the schools, reducing reliance on the sachet waters. We installed about 20 water dispensers in the schools, promoting the reuse and refill culture, train about 50 women and young people to practice um, zero waste practices, and then they also gain skills from it, and then also making a living out of it. We've collected about 3,500 kilogram of textiles, which were diverted from the landfills and thereby preventing the burning. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm told my time is up, so I would have to wrap up. So let me just conclude by saying that we started this story with the small of a burning plastic, a small of a failure. Now, this is how the smell looks like. In schools where we have worked, the smell feels like a clean water in a reusable bottle. It smells like a community that has decided it was not going to wait for the system to change, but it will fix itself. Yeah, so we are asking you all to keep building with us and to keep investing in these communities. And we know that it is possible to prevent burning in Accra. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. I'm just flagging that the question would be at the end, and you can drop your question in that chat box just to not forget it. And also, I want to highlight how much the backstory of every initiative and approach you chose in the organization is very, very interesting. And I love when you said smoke seems to be the last chapter, and we all know it's not the last chapter. So thank you so much for this inspiring presentation. And I would like now to move with our next speaker, Edwin Mumbere. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Edwin is a Ugandan climate justice advocate and renewable energy leader, serving as a director of the Center of Citizen Conserving Environment and Management. He works at the intersection of community empowerment, environmental governance, and clean energy access, in championing locally led solutions that center last mile communities in development. This is very inspiring. Welcome, Edwin, to the webinar, and we are very, very excited to hear your input.
Thank you for the introductions. Hello, everyone. I'm Edwin, and I'm based in Uganda. Thanks. CICIG implemented Zero Waste Communities Initiative in Nyamwamba Division in Kasese Municipality. This is the western part of Uganda. Why did we really choose Nyamwamba Division? It's because Nyamwamba Division is prone to climatic change destructions, for example, the floods from River Nyamwamba, and from the previous engagements we had with communities there, through the cleanups we had with university students from the region, we realized that the plastic problem was beyond, and we really needed to do something. But to do something, we thought it was wise that we engaged the communities, and this gave birth to the Zero Waste Communities Initiative, which basically engaged around 300 community members with focus more on 120 households, since Uganda as a country was generating around 600 tons of plastic waste daily. So this was a big problem, not only for a community, but for us as a country. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before the project, the communities in Nyamwamba were facing a great challenge of unmanaged waste, drainage blockage, and plastic blockage. So to work on this, we created 10 community groups that were living closest to the 10 dumping hotspots, so that we can take them through a process of managing waste, and managing waste right from the source, that is the households, because we realized the households were also the major generators of plastic waste and all other forms of waste. So the 10 groups that we created, we again divided them into 2 groups. One was focusing on organic waste management, and the other was mainly focusing on the plastic waste. Why did we divide the 2? Because we realized we can create more jobs from this, so that this could also help in the sustainability of the project, even when the funding is done. So those that went into the organic waste group, we trained them on how to do black fly farming, and also to produce organic pesticides that are being used in the agriculture sector. So we also linked them up with organic farmer associations who will be getting the organic waste from them. And then the other groups that focused on the plastic waste, who further went ahead and looked at where the plastic was basically coming from. We realized the plastic was also coming from the market, because at the end of everyone goes to the market to buy something. And over 90% of our packaging in Uganda is basically plastic. So went to the markets themselves and realized they already have associations, and these were savings associations. So we took this opportunity to work with them, since they were already organized, by taking them through a process of why we really feel plastic is not really good as a packaging option that is currently there. But then we also went ahead and showed them that we can still reuse the plastics that are there available and give them a second life. The second life we thought about was also to train the youth to create crafts from the plastics that had been dumped on the 10 hotspot dumping sites. Two, we also looked at the bigger plastic bottles, for example, the water refills, the jerry cans, and the other small plastic bottles that ranged from half a liter to 10 to 20 liters. So in order for us to create a culture that could use and also believe that we can still reuse the plastics, we worked with the Kasese Municipality Council and National Water Storage Corporation, who agreed to give us a water access point within the market, where the market vendors, the customers who had come to buy, the school-going children, the border riders in other countries that are called Okadas, to come and collect water. And this also reduced the amount of plastics that were going to be dumped. So you could find that a student or a market vendor has plastic water bottle that he or she would have thrown away, but kept it within themselves. So this helped us in working on mindset change, which we felt was key for us. And since we really wanted to do practical, this was also great in ensuring that was possible. Next slide, please. Well, just like I'd said previously, we also worked with the communities, because we really felt at the end of the day, the communities have to own the project. And for its sustainability, the project has to be community owned, but then also focused more on the youth and the women, because the youth and women contribute to almost 70% of Uganda's current population. So we felt that if we work together with these groups of people, then we shall be moving the project forward. We also thought that for us to succeed with the project, we had to involve the various government agencies at all levels. So we started with the local governments, that's the local councils, and then we ended up reaching the district. Through our continuous engagements, we realized they supported the project, and they also helped us write recommendations to the various government entities. For example, National Water Storage Corporation. This is a government entity that is in charge of creating and connecting people to clean water that is treated by the government. We also worked with the municipality health officer. These are some of the officers that you rarely find even when you go to the municipal offices, but who are lucky enough, who are connected to them, who are also connected to the various local government agencies that were in support. And we were also getting more requests that other government agencies want to join. For example, plus companies. For example, we've received a letter from Steel and Tube Industries Limited in Uganda that is willing to give us a stainless steel tank that we can set up in the market, so that we can also reduce on the amount of the plastic water tanks that we're currently using. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide basically shows how the zero waste solutions were grounded. One, we trained the communities on strict waste segregation. Then we engaged the women and the youth, because these constitute the largest percentage of the population in Uganda, over 70%. And then we introduced accessible refill water points in in the division. As we speak, we have 2, but we plan to scale up to at least make 4. That is after we've looked at the current trade order that has been passed by the government of Uganda, which at some point affects us because we have to replan on where we're going to put the new refill stations, because currently the locations that we have chosen are going to be affected by the new trade order. So we are going to redesign this and then sit down with the local authorities to guide us to how we can get the best spot for these water refills. Then we also worked with the local media. The local media was really key because if we wanted to reach the masses, the best way was to use the local radio stations. And secondly, because we had worked with the local authorities, we found out that they had been given an hour each month on any radio station of their choice to talk to the populations. So we got this opportunity to request an hour from them, and we were lucky enough that we were given 3 hours. That was in 3 months, on radio stations 3 times. So this helped us increase the project awareness, and then also had to bring in the communities themselves to really show and talk about the benefits. Also, this increased pressure on us because more communities really wanted us to scale up to their communities. Next slide, please. These were the daily mechanism of our refilling revolution. So here we call the people customers. They could come in with their water bottles refilled, and the water was, by the way, free of charge. So this was an offer from the National Storage and Corporation in Uganda. This was before we had, the picture you see in the slide was before we had upgraded to now a bigger tank. And then the vendors would come and use the bottles, plastic bottles for refill, which we've realized had also reduced on the plastic wastage and also on organic waste, since approximately 50 to 60% of the households were currently making composite projects at home. And this is also evident through the groups, which have also scaled up by creating kitchen gardens, and they end up selling to the same markets. But we're also thinking on how they can package their products with environmental friendly methods, either using banana leaves or something. So we're also in connection with an Indian company that basically focuses on eco packaging. Next slide, please. Yes, how are we measuring the changes across the Nyamamba and Central divisions? Yes, we are measuring the changes through a number of aspects. One, through the active refill users that we have on the 2 stations. Okay. 2, the reduction in the plastics and other types of wastes on the dumping sites. 3, 4th, we're also looking, third, we're also seeing that communities are getting more and more engaged in the project, and they have also created their project committees. That basically means that even without a CICIC presence there, the project will continue. 3, we have also seen enactment of a local law that is also requesting homes to also segregate their waste before they load it on the municipality truck. Next slide, please. Yes, the picture basically shows the 2 groups that I talked about, the women that really went into the organic waste management, and then the youth and some other women who really went into the plastic projects. Now, the plastic that you see there was this kind of plastic that was dirty, that was already been dumped, and it couldn't be reused in the package, couldn't be reused in the use of refilling, maybe for water. Secondly, it was dirty, it was maybe damaged. So we had to look for alternative ways of making this plastic more useful to the communities. Next slide, please. Okay. So this other slide talks about the engine for circular economy. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we realized that as we're implementing this project, we also have to increase the finances of the communities that we work with. We looked at the waste management component, the economic empowerment, and the climate action. Remember in my introduction, I talked about Nyamamba division being a climate prone. This is one of the divisions that floods almost every May. So with the segregation of waste, we kind of like solved half of this problem, because when the river floods, it finds that the waste is already in the drainage channels. I mean, the plastic already in the drainage channels. So this becomes a problem too. So when we reduce on the amount of plastics that is being dumped into the drainage channels, we are working with climate action and also creating awareness, waste management, homesteads got to know more about the techniques of segregating waste at source, and that is right from their homesteads. And economic empowerment, the youth and women are now selling bags that are being used to carry stuff from the market, and also because some hospitals and schools have banned polythene bags, so we are now resorting to the small plastic carriers that have been built from the plastic wastes. Next slide, please. Next, this is about behavior change, since I have 3 minutes. Next slide, please. Okay, rush to the conclusion. Okay, in summary, C6 successfully demonstrated that communities in Nyamwamba and Central Division can lead environmental transformation through practical zero waste solutions, with around 300 members engaged, with more than 5 cleanup campaigns and at least 2 refill points set up, with more than 120 households trained on waste segregation, which represented around 60% of youth and women in the division. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edwin. I've taken a very interesting notes that from awareness to action, we only need a mindset change, and this needs so hard working. And I can see the hard work in your presentation and in your input. So thank you so much for this inspiring presentation. And now we will move to our next speaker, Omar. Omar is going to be speaking in French. So this is just a reminder, if you have not already, please enable the interpretation function. Omar is the activity coordinator at adansonia.green. Omar holds a bachelor's degree in geomatics, planning and urban development, and has studied geography. He is certified in project monitoring and evaluation, design thinking, and waste management. And he also holds the position of activity coordinator at adansonia.green since 2024. So, bienvenue, Omar.
Bonjour à tous. Merci beaucoup,
Good
Iman.
afternoon, everyone.
Bonjour à tous. Merci pour la
So, good
présentation.
afternoon. Thank you for
moi, je
the
suis Omar
previous
Diedhiou,
speaker.
le
So,
coordinateur
my name
des
is
activités
Omar
d'association
Diedhiou. I am the
Conserving Ghana.
coordinator with
J'aurais vraiment souhaité
adansonia.green, and I'm
présenter
honored to
le projet
present
Réemploi GAIA
the Réemploi
dans le
project,
cadre
so
de cette
reuse
association avec laquelle
project,
j'ai le projet.
and we have the privilege, in fact, of having participated in this project. Next slide.
Du coup, ma présentation
So
sera
this
sur 8
is the
sujets.
outline of my
Tout d'abord,
presentation. There will
le
be 8
contexte,
key points. First of all, the
la situation
context,
continentale,
and then the
la
continental
mobilisation collective,
structuration, the collective
l'impact du projet,
mobilization, the
les
impact of
défis
the
majeurs
project,
à rencontrer,
the
les
challenges that
perspectives,
were met, the
les
perspectives,
opportunités
and the
inattendues, et enfin,
opportunities that
la
were
conclusion.
unexpected, and the conclusion.
Slide.
Next slide, please.
Merci.
Thank you
En
very
Afrique,
much.
la
So
quantité
in
déchets ne cesse
Africa,
d'augmenter.
the quantity of
La production
waste
annuelle
is
génère environ
continuously increasing,
174 millions de tonnes de
and
déchets solides
we have
et solides
millions
chaque
of
année.
solid
Selon la Banque
waste.
mondiale et d'autres
And
sources
according
récentes,
to the World Bank
avec une
and
augmentation rapide
other
de la
resources,
consommation
these
zéro,
figures keep
ce volume pourrait tripler
increasing.
d'ici
So
2050
we know that this volume
pourrait
could
atteindre
triple
environ
before
506 millions de tonnes de
2050
déchets.
to
Le
reach
véritable enjeu ne serait
506
pas uniquement dans la
tons
gestion,
of waste. So the problem
mais
is not
aussi
only in
dans
the
la
management of
consommation
waste, but
et le
also in the way
refus
we
de
consume
réduire
and
ainsi
the way in which we don't
présent dans nos
reuse
quotidiens.
and reduce our
Réemploi
waste.
préconise
This
une
is
solution
visible in our
porteur de
daily
possibilités pour les communautés les plus
practices,
vulnérables.
and we think that
C'est à
there
cet
are
effet
some
que nous
opportunities
avons
for
fait le
the
choix de les rendre
communities.
plus faciles,
So
partagées
that
et
is why
organisées.
we have decided to share the knowledge
Next
and
slide.
organize ourselves. Next slide.
Prochain slide, s'il vous plaît.
Next slide, please.
Merci. Donc, en parlant de structuration continentale,
So when we speak about
nous avons
continental
la vise de
structuration, so
structurer
here
et
we
démontrer
want
des
to
systèmes de
structure
réemploi
and show some
à travers 3
reuse
axes.
systems in
Tout
Africa
d'abord,
through
la coordination
3
régionale.
streams. First of all,
Là, le groupe de
continental
travail sur
coordination.
le
So we
réemploi
have a working group on
GAIA, BFFP est
reuse
pleinement mise
that
en
we
place
work
et
with. So we
opérationnelle.
saw that GAIA
Voilà
and
qui regroupe
BFFP
des organisations
have
de la société civile africaine,
united some
des
African
praticiens et des
organizations
acteurs
of
sur le cycle
people
de
who
réemploi et
work
décharge.
in
Le
the
groupe a
field
développé
of
toute une vision
reuse
qui est
and
partagée, une structure de
refill.
gouvernance
So we
et de
have
planification
a
stratégique
common
et
African vision that is
l'intimité sur les
shared,
déchets
and we have
et le
also
traitement des
some
déchets.
meetings, and we also have a mapping
Slide.
and capacity building initiatives. Next slide, please.
Si vous avez des idées ou bien
So
des
if you
suggestions
have
sur potentiel de réemploi,
ideas for
n'hésitez pas à nous
projects on
contacter
reuse
sur WhatsApp
or refill,
sur
please
ce
contact
numéro
us on
ou aussi
WhatsApp.
par
You
mail.
can see our
Ce sera
numbers
avec
here.
plaisir
You could also contact us
de
via
partager avec
email
vous
or
nouveaux
in
projets
any other
touchant
means.
le
So
réemploi
we
GAIA
will be very
participer au
happy to see
processus
new
de
projects that
promotion
could
et
participate
d'étude
with us
et
on
dans le
this
domaine.
initiative to
Slide.
ensure reuse and refill in Africa. Next slide, please.
Le deuxième point là, ça touche sur la sensibilisation et la
So a
mobilisation.
second thing
Là, le groupe de
about
travail a coordonné
awareness and
plusieurs campagnes
mobilization.
pour
So we
sensibiliser,
have coordinated several campaigns
réemploi.
to
Spécifique,
then
World Refill Day,
reinforce
on a eu à
the
cœur de
visibility of the project. So we have done some activities in June 2025, in November 2025, and also we had the Refuse Single-Use Day in January 2026. So these campaigns allow us to reach a wider public and to strengthen the coordination amongst African organizations. Next slide.
Le troisième point, toujours sur la
Third
structuration
point,
continentale, là, ça
well,
touche les projets et les
we
actions
have
sur le terrain.
different projects and activities that were done on the field, on the ground. So we have a working group that makes sure that these projects are launched, are also useful in strengthening then the impact of these projects. So we have, for example, the Café Touba project, and this is then done with other organizations, and the goal is to reduce the use of plastic by traders. So in Senegal, we are talking about 2,000 or 3,000 containers that are used every day in Ghana, in Senegal. So this is a major project in that regard. And so we have, first of all, targeted 10 traders, and we have then distributed 230 cups that could be reused, and we have collected 2,280 disposable cups. And so we have avoided 15,000 cups from being used per year. And so this project allowed us then to really reduce some of these cups being found in nature or in landfills. So these cups then were eliminated. So if we do the total with these 10 traders, it means that we have 150,000 cups that were then avoided from being wasted. So this has also contributed to the economy. We're talking to the level of 75,000 FCFA. Next slide, please. So this project is a model that could be replicated in other African countries, and we also have other projects that aim to raise awareness. So first of all, we will start with the project on pads that could be reused. So we want then to enable the access to reusable sanitary pads, and this to protect the environment and also to assist these women. So during this project, we have trained 53 young women on how to make these reusable sanitary pads. They have produced 263 pads, and we have sensitized 102 women and young women on menstrual hygiene. Next slide, please. So at the same time, this project supported other initiatives in other African countries. So we have, first of all, the Upcycle It project with Frank, and you've heard Frank speaking about this project a short while ago. And also we have then contributed with Mazingira Plus in Tanzania. And so we have promoted the installation of water fountain in schools, and that helped us to reduce single-use plastic usage. And so this project allows us to then promote the idea of reuse. Next slide, please.
Slide, vous m'entendez? Merci. Donc, ce projet a même temps fait le suivi.
So this project then allowed us to monitor and strengthen some initiatives that were in place in terms of recuperating and reusing bottles. So we have the working group GAIA Africa, who did excellent work at that level, and that allows us to ensure the momentum of different initiatives, including in Egypt with Sustainable Network Egypt. And so they are recuperating glass bottles for their reuse in local markets. With then a Greenish Egypt, we have launched a project, and it shows a model of reuse, and so that really brings a dimension on the daily use of these containers. We also had some community consultation, and they have developed a local economic model. And in Nigeria, we have worked with community action against plastic waste. So we had different activities that were carried out. And so they have done advocacy to mainstream reuse in national policies, develop a model for reuse as really an economic empowerment tool, and they have participated at continental discussions. In terms of impacts, if we go to the next slide. So in terms of impact of this project, this impact really had a positive, this project had a positive impact in general. So first of all, it strengthened the coordination and visibility of the zero waste movement. And also we saw that reuse works even in informal sectors, and also we can have efficient solutions. And also we had different trainings that allowed the youth, women, and other organizations to develop some activities and to also create livelihoods. And also, through different campaigns, we could raise awareness and sensitize communities. And so this led to sustainable habits in terms of consumption and reuse. Next slide. So on this project, we, however, met some challenges. So we had challenges at the implementation stage and elsewhere, and these challenges were different, showed different dimension. And so we saw, first of all, we had perhaps partners and people who didn't really understand or confused the concepts of reuse, recycling, and upcycling. And in terms of challenges, well, we saw that some capacities were limited among some partners, and this because of the workload, and also because of competing priorities and the availability of resources that need to be allocated to these initiatives. Another challenge, now a social challenge. So we had some cultural perceptions and also some issues related to hygiene, and this was at the very beginning, especially for the reuse of some hygiene products. And so we saw that it's difficult to change daily habits when it comes to consumption of such products. Institutional challenges, now we saw that there are no national regulations, and they should be regulating the reusable products. And so this made it difficult to scale up this project or initiative. Next slide, please. When it comes now to perspectives, well, we see that it's a project that can lead to many opportunities. So the idea would be to scale up the pilot project, to have it in more cities and countries, and that would allow us to test different solutions in the different contexts. And so especially we would need to develop some systems to ensure the sanitation and washing of the reusable products. Institutionally speaking, we want to strengthen the regulations and standards so that we can really give legitimacy and trust into the reuse of such products. Also, we want to support the emergence of entrepreneurship in the field of reuse in Africa, and then we want to really be able to build a sustainable ecosystem that can be dynamic. Thank you very much. And next slide. Thank you. In terms of unexpected opportunities, well, the project really led us to more things than what was anticipated. Institutionally speaking, we saw that we have participated to the climate days organized by the Ministry of the Youth and Environment. So we really were recognized by the ministry, and this was deemed an initiative that could benefit civil society. And so we benefited from that institutional visibility, as we were part of the 3 organizations that were identified by the Ministry of Youth to present to its partners. And also we were invited at these expos that happened during the days of climate. So also we had some interests that were shown by universities and schools because they wanted to include or mainstream the reuse in their programs, and also they showed a willingness to train the next generations. And we saw as well that the project were adopted at the local level around the offices of adansonia.green and Mermoz. And so also we saw the commitment of service provider, especially the traders in the markets who were involved with us in this project. So I'm talking here about the coffee traders. And also we saw that these are the first steps towards the normalizing and certification of reusable products. So these are unexpected opportunities that we have identified. And now I will speak about the conclusion on the next slide, please. So as a conclusion, I can say that the project allowed us to really set the foundations of the Reuse African network. And we saw that this will depend on three things. First of all, the valorization of reusable products. Second, to build capacities at the local level in each country. And finally, to mobilize institutions and communities. And that would allow us, for each organization who works at local level, to have then an impact and to reach their goals and even beyond. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm available should you have any questions. Next slide. So we can be reached at these contact details via email. So please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any comments, suggestions. We are open to engaging with us, and we are also open to any ideas that would allow us to then strengthen the idea of reuse. Thank you very much.
Merci, Omar. So Omar has mentioned something very, very interesting, that the integrating feminist-led initiatives like reusable sanitary solutions and how these organizations transform the circular economy practices into direct tools for the economic and social empowerment of women and youth. And thanks for mentioning our lovely organization, Greenish. Omar also shared the contact information. So if you have any idea for about reusable initiative and waste management initiative, you can share it directly with him. This would be amazing and a very good output from this webinar. And we are moving to our final speaker, my manager. I would love to highlight this every time I say his name. Mohamed Kamal. Mohamed is a solid waste expert and executive director of Greenish Foundation, who has been involved in combating plastic pollution and single-use plastic in Egypt. And Mohamed has co-founded a local reuse and refill project, which aims to test potential local rural model to enhance supply chain and reduce waste. Welcome, Mohamed.
Hello, thank you, man, for the introduction. And thank you, everyone, for being with us. The presentations before me were really exciting. It's good to see all the efforts that people are having and trying to test and also expand more reuse and refill models in Africa. So I'm going to share my screen and get started my presentation straight away. So just give me a second. My presentation is more confusing, I think, than some of my previous presenters. So bear with me. Hopefully I'll not lose you midway through. I'll try to explain for you exactly what exactly our project was, what we've managed to achieve and what we haven't managed to achieve. But to start, just a quick introduction. So our project is a collaboration between different actors, and it's called Dor Baid. Darb Eid is a literal translation from Arabic. It's an Arabic phrase. Darb is a pathway, and Eid has several meanings. One is we celebrate Eid. Eid is a day of festivities, but also Eid means to repeat. So that's where the name came from. And we have been, as an organization, as Greenish, and a few other stakeholders as well, have been working in the village of Menshei Dahshur for the past now 7 years. And it started initially from the community and a community project reaching out to us because they had a serious solid waste problem, which you can see in the presentation in front of you. And the main issue that Dahshur was facing is it is a beautiful location. It's one that has a lot of historic significance, but it was seriously challenged by solid waste accumulation that is in very important areas within the village. And obviously, our definition of a village differs a lot from other places, but a village in Egypt, in the rural context, can have a population up to 50,000 people. And their population is around between 40 to 50,000 people in Menshei Dahshur. So in front of the main school area, there was a big accumulation of waste, and they had a lot of waste leakage going into drainage canals, into irrigation canals, as you can see in the pictures on the right. And we have been working predominantly as an organization over the years to try. In the beginning, we did the research, we produced a report, and the purpose of the report was to help us understand what the situation on the ground is. Just a second, sorry. I don't think the slides are moving, right? Oh, now they did. Never mind. Okay, back. Okay, you can see my screen, right? If anyone can confirm, perfect. Okay, so one of the things that we focused on was building a community partnership and trying to understand what is happening to why is the solid waste accumulating, how bad is the problem itself when you try to map it out. So here I'm just recapping for now, and not to spend too much time here. This report is available publicly. You can find it. We've shared it before. I think in the previous time we shared progress on our project, but I can also share a link to the report itself. It's an old report now, but what we were able to do in this report is we were able to actually map and understand how the solid waste is accumulating, what percentage of the solid waste is plastic, what percentage is leaked. We did a waste characterization study within the community. We obviously did a random sample, and we started to identify the potential areas where there are problems and the potential areas where the informal sector operates. But our understanding at that stage was also we were seen as people who are a little bit foreign. They're just doing a study and they're going to leave. And one of the key findings in 2021, when we finished this whole study, was there is no way we can have a serious community transformation without building a community relationship. And that's what we worked on for several years, actually. So we worked from 2021 till 2024 and 2023, just building a community relationships, doing workshops, engaging in different community events. And we started a newer project. It was called Fairville in 2024. And the purpose of Fairville was it was an EU-funded project, separate from the project we're working on as Darb Eid, to resolve and to map or co-produce with the community a solution to the solid waste issues. And now this project is concluding and has a lot of interesting outputs, but it was an opportunity, and I mean, that's a separate project from Greenish, but we were able to collaborate with them to build our understanding of the scenario and situation on the ground. So the next phase, 2024 and 2025 is when we started Darb Eid, actually giving it a name and a brand. In 2024, we started to realize there's a perfect opportunity because the plastic portion of the waste is the biggest problem. It was the one that was not finding a pathway, is not being collected. And if I just take you a step back in the pie chart here, we found that out of the 12% of this plastic waste, 80% was plastic bags. So we were not finding PET bottles to begin with. And I'll explain later why that was the case. So we really realized plastic bags and plastic packaging, single-use plastic packaging, was the predominant problem we're facing. And is the predominant problem we need to find a replacement for. And based on this finding, which was based on primary data that we collected, we started to realize, okay, there's an opportunity to have a reuse model to try and eliminate this. And even if it doesn't work, we wanted to pilot something just to see how far we can get in trying to replace plastic in a practical rural setting, which is very different to a big urban area. In a rural area, you're much more isolated. So the first activity that my colleagues worked on, this was as a collaboration between us as part of the wider project, is we actually mapped how is the village distributed. I mean, the two maps in front of you are samples. The map on the left showcases for you where there is commercial activity in the village. So that's the full village. So the full mapping of the village itself. And on the right is a status of the current situation of the roads and the vicinity within each, let's say, accumulation of buildings. Why the roads are important is when I explained the model, you realize it was heavily dependent on the viability of roads to be used to have a reuse and refill model that passes by the houses. So these two maps provided us with a lot of important data. Usually this would be the work of the local city council. Unfortunately, they're overpressured, so they don't do this type of work to map out the commercial, the human activity that happens within the village. Also, a portion of this is informal, so it was an opportunity to map out the informal activity as well. These maps provided us with a very strong baseline to actually activate our pilot. And taking a step back, when we started the project, and this was at the very beginning, this is nearly a year and a half ago, we did a very simple scenario-based situation where we mapped out all the products that people purchase in Manshayt Dahshur. And this was done through workshops with the local community and also through direct data collections and questionnaires. And we sort of mapped them into tiers. Tier 1 are the most realistic products for us to eliminate plastic altogether. Tier 2 are less realistic, but also things that we can work on. And then Tier 3/excluded were the ones where there is either a political context or it's more complicated to move around without plastic, at least for us. So for instance, bread, although we found that bread is probably the biggest source of single-use plastic in Manshayt Dahshur, the provision of bread is done through the Ministry of Internal Supply and its respective authorities. It's also a subsidized product. So we will never be able to sort of intervene in that supply chain because there is no informal sector that operates in a way, and we were not ready yet to engage with the government at such capacity. And the provision of the plastic bags comes from the government's facilities to begin with. The other thing was fruits and vegetables. And this changed actually. In the beginning, we were very hesitant to engage with something that has short shelf life. Our warehousing was very limited. We don't have fridges. We will not be able to afford it as part of this project. We also do not know the frequency of purchasing that people have. It varies a lot for vegetables. So this was quite challenging. So we went with the easy way. We went in the beginning, our assumption was, let's take tier 1, which are things that can easily be stored. People purchase them on a monthly basis. And let's go to the community and validate this. Before we did that, we made a list of assumptions. And this list of assumptions was revisited 4 times across the year. And to date, they still are being revisited, honestly. And these assumptions are just what we build over time in our understanding of what's happening. So what is happening in Manshayt Dahshur for purchasing behavior and purchasing habits. So in simple, our idea, and this idea significantly changed, but our initial idea was that there would be a team or probably maybe a business, maybe not a business, maybe a community cooperative, which has a front end and a back end. The back end would be that there would be a team that runs a mini supply chain system where we have a warehouse, we have a truck, we have a simple data management system, and we sort of have a very basic sort of agreement set up between us as a group and people that live in the community. The front end would be that households, they need products every day or every week, and the purchasing habits change between one place and another within the village. And what we would do is we would provide them a tricycle that passes by on a weekly basis, maybe twice, that would provide them these products. And they would refill the products for them in containers. And across the week, they can call by phone or send WhatsApp messages to check if they need something or not. And this would be a paid subscription fee. And this subscription fee would be there would be no profit margin. It would just be covering its operations. I mean, this was let's say, the grand idea we had at the beginning. Now, this grand idea, the rationale behind it is this sort of cone, where it came at the very beginning. Our rationale is not reuse and refill, actually. Our rationale is we want to reduce single-use plastics. It is causing a lot of leakage in Manshayt Dahshur and a visible problem for the local community, which means we will be able to decrease waste accumulation. And we started to realize that there is no way we improve this situation without enhancing local supply chains and improving the grocery options that exist within Manshayt Dahshur, which were quite limited. This in turn would mean we support the local economy, and that happens through implementing possibly a reuse and refill model. overall, this whole cone should lead to an improved living condition for the people, where there is a reduced amount of waste accumulating. Now, let's take a pause. If you remember when I mentioned in the beginning, we originally worked in Manshia Dahshur because of the waste situation. And what you see in front of you here is what happened in Manshia Dahshur. On the very left, you'll see the previous situation. This was pre-development of an intervention by the community itself. And then in the middle, there's a picture where people remove the waste by themselves. The community by itself removed the accumulated waste. And by the way, the local council or the government provides collection, but it's never enough to remove all that waste. The waste is just accumulating too quickly. And in that picture, the structure on the left is a mosque, and behind it, and the one that is a little bit far, are schools. So it's a very active area in the village. It's the only school complex in the village. So it's very dangerous to have children. You can see in the picture on the right, children passing by every day in front of this waste, which gets regularly burnt. There's a lot of leakage. There's a lot of exposure to harm. Now, for the community, this is the most visible problem they have. And for them, when we come and talk about reuse and refill, the buy-in was limited. They are interested and they continue to show interest, but they're not going to mobilize too much. What they kept repeating is they have three primary problems, and they want us as a group of organizations and stakeholders interested to make a difference to prioritize these three things and maybe add reuse in parallel with them. These three things were education. The education situation is very bad. The schools are over capacity, and there is no advanced anything beyond secondary education. So basically, anything after grade 8 is not available in the village. So that was quite challenging. Also, two is wastewater. They have a very big issue because the wastewater network is not operating very well. And number three, with solid waste, they have a big problem in the pictures you see. I mean, this is not a great picture, although it can be normalized. It's hard to live with this on a daily basis. So they said, please work with us to resolve this. And in parallel, maybe as you improve that situation, we start to get more buy-in for this potential pilot you want to create. This was through a direct workshop we made with the community when we were trying to get more data regarding reuse and refill options and trying to validate it with them. And that pushed us so that the Darbait project gets involved in trying to solve this waste accumulation problem. So what you're seeing in the bottom of this slide is we started to then work with the other project, so the two projects working together, to design a pilot, where this pilot is an attempt to resolve the waste problem here by creating a waste room that can, let's say, store the waste for a week, help the informal sector, so to give them a kiosk where they can segregate the waste in. We co-designed the concept actually with the informal waste sector workers there, and we validated it from the local city council. And obviously, we would be in charge of sort of constructing it and putting it together. But that would free up land. So that's the key aspect here. That would free up land that could become beneficial for us if we need land for the reuse and refill pilot. So this was sort of an informal agreement we were able to get with the local city council, because one of the challenges we faced is where are we going to get a warehouse, where can we store, if we get a tricycle, how do we store it? But this started to open up another opportunity for the work we wanted to do. Also, at the same time, there was an opportunity that the community thought of, which is why not open a small greenhouse where plants can be sold for people to purchase them. And this could keep the area nice, look nicer, and people might not dump their waste the same way they used to before, and subscribe to this new model where they will throw it in the room that's in the middle, which is just a sample of the design. So this is a way where we're prioritizing the community needs so that we just don't go in with our own we think reuse and refill is important, but for the community, they just don't see how this is as important as solving these problems. Or maybe they see it, but they just want this to be resolved first. So we got the community buy-in through this, and then we go back to what did we actually find. So now that we did several rounds of workshops and community consultations. We did a round of actually working directly with the local supply chain to try and understand how are they providing their products, why are they being packaged the way they are. And I mean, 90% are products already packaged when they reached Manshia Dahshur. So if I take you, before I get into the findings, the model we wanted to create is on the left. Basically, I am a resident of Manshia Dahshur. I need a product, so I will reach out to this Darbait initiative, and they pay a weekly or a monthly fee, and they get the products they want. Obviously, we were doing them at a tier-based products. It was only going to be tier 1 in the start. And the pricing was going to be obviously made where we calculated it based on the average household consumption in Manshia Dahshur. The existing scenario, the one that existed before we do anything, is you need a product, you go to a supermarket, you buy everything packaged in plastic and packaged, overly packaged as well. You take it in plastic bags as well. And all of this is then eventually leaked into the drainage canals in the village. What we found is we found that there is an existing, so this we weren't actually aware of how much there is reuse and refill in the village and how much any intervention we make could disrupt that. So let's start with the first finding. The first finding was the Attar shop. Attar, I don't think there's an actual English equivalent of the term, from my knowledge at least. But these shops, traditionally in Egypt, they usually sell spices, herbs, medicine, and let's say they also sell perfumes. But in villages, and also back in the day in urban Egypt, they used to also sell most refillable consumables. They used to sell rice, they used to sell pasta, and people used to go and refill these products physically in these small shops. Now, these shops still exist in Manshayd Dahshur. There's 3 of them in total, and we met with them. Now, they predominantly still sell some spices and herbs, and they still sell some other, let's say, packaged products, as you can see in the picture. However, they have completely stopped selling daily consumables. And when we try to understand this, they said we cannot offer the same margins on profit as the supermarkets that get packaged pasta and get packaged rice and get packaged lentils. The packaged products are just too cheap for us to compete with, and the supply chain itself now doesn't really provide you things that are not packaged anymore. So for them, they're not aiming to be a supermarket, they're aiming to be a place where you go and get a certain type of unique product. But they were willing to engage on exploring a new product as long as they don't have to be getting a headache with the local supply chain. So here, one of our assumptions was wrong, which is no, there is an existing infrastructure that can already house some reuse and refill, and we don't need to create something new. We thought that they wouldn't have that capacity. Another thing we found, and we validated it based on primary data, is if we are to remove certain plastic products, we would significantly disrupt an existing local exchange system. So at the moment, we knew that some exchange was happening between the local community and the informal sector for certain waste, but we just were not aware of how dependent both sides are on this. So during the interviews we did as part of the Dar Ba'id project and the community workshops, we found out that on a monthly basis, at least 3 to 4 times, there is a local informal waste collector that passes by each area. If you remember the large map, they separate between them the areas and the village. They pass by and they exchange aluminum cans, PET bottles, PP caps as well, the caps of the bottles, and any HDPE or a high density polyethylene products as well. They exchange them. So the people give them these waste or this waste. So the people already segregate the household waste. They give them that waste and they get in return cleaning silk and soap. So we found out that the average household doesn't really ever purchase soap and silk at all, or any washing, let's say, plastics for the household, because this is part of an exchange system. How does the waste picker or the waste collector make the money? He makes money out of the products that he gets in return and sells to recycling facilities. So if we are to sort of try to disrupt, and then we actually found out something else very interesting, that collector actually collects more items. Sometimes collects styrofoam, although they can't really recycle it, but in large volumes. Apparently, we found out there's an informal value chain that purchases them. We found out that some of the cling film as well, if it's accumulated in large volumes, they would also take it. Things that we are actively looking to eliminate, someone was actually collecting parts of. And if we are trying to eliminate them and affect them, even though it's an informal value chain, we should take into consideration how we put them or how we consider the impact that would affect them. So 2 minutes. I don't have that much left anyway, so don't worry, I'll hopefully finish on time. So the other also thing which actually is quite frequent in Egypt is in rural areas, people don't really purchase bottled water. What people usually do is there's a horse cart that passes by on a daily or bi-daily basis in the village. People pass by, and this picture is not very clear. It's an AI generated picture. I did have a picture, but I couldn't add to the presentation. And this is in Dahshur, where the cart passes by every day. And I think this is also frequent in other countries in Africa. And people refill their drinking water from this cart through jerry cans. So there's an already existing infrastructure for refill for water. So the water wasn't a problem. Obviously, we don't have the sachet situation because the infrastructure in Egypt is slightly different to some of the countries in West Africa. And this, as a model, works. People only purchase PET bottles when they don't have access to their water that is in their household. So if they're outside or in their coffee shop, it's more likely to be a PET bottle. So here we found out that, okay, water doesn't need to be our priority at the moment, or water provision. But given some of these findings and other findings as well, our model started to become a little bit questionable because it was a high cost model. If I'm buying a tricycle and I'm moving it through the village, if I'm providing, let's say, if I'm getting a fee and I'm getting my own supply chain separate, this made no sense. And our model was supposedly going to be more decentralized. We were supposed to go to the household because we did not trust households. And I'm being honest, we did not trust that people would come to a location we have or to our Attar shop. We said, no, let's go to their household, give them the product. They're more likely to subscribe and be part of the system. But through the workshops and through the discussions, this did not really work out, and it was clear this is not very sustainable. So the conclusion, or the main finding we then reached from the pilot, let's say, phase that we are theoretically still in, is we shifted our model from a decentralized model to a centralized model, but not centralized as in government centralized. Centralized as in people would go to the three shops to purchase or get their products, and that our entire focus for this project would shift from looking at containers and how you package the containers to providing us this, or making sure that the supply chain for these reusable products, lentils, rice, pasta, and others, and vegetables as well, and fruits, two things. One, are affordable, so the supply chain minimizes cost to the extent possible, so we remain competitive in price. And two, can be packaged without plastic and stored without plastic. In that case, we then remove the need for plastic waste. And people would take or would come with their bags. The bags would be distributed through the Attar shop and take the product. The challenge that remained was how would they store this in their own house? Because a lot of the women complained that low density polyethylene bags continue to provide them a way to segregate products within the fridge. We did not really have a solution for this, aside from probably providing a subsidized container that people can purchase to store things in the fridge. However, containers will still take more space than plastic. So we said, okay, let's keep this for now and let's just focus on trying to implement this sort of come to the shop and buy the product, and maybe it might even be less in price, which is going to be very challenging to achieve, than the product fully packaged in plastic. So at this stage, and just to conclude and wrap up, we were able to clearly map what the community is interested in, what they don't want and what they want, and what their priorities are. We have a map of the purchasing power and a behavior map as well. So how frequent do people visit the supermarket? And this is very hard data to collect. I have to be honest, this took a lot of time. I mean, we've worked in Darfur for 6, 7 years. And only because of this 6, 7 years, we were able to even reach this checkpoint. And here we're doing the job that a government is supposed to be doing. So also there's a lot of sensitivity on collecting this type of data. But we now have a behavior map. We were able to buy in the local city council, and now we have their interest, but not because of reuse and refill, purely because we're also trying to solve the waste problem in the city. So the buy-in came from a different angle. So having these two things in parallel helped. The shops are interested, and they will start to become our model. The model will now focus on these refillable shops that people can go to, that exist within the village, that don't need us to market anything new. But only thing we'll need is to raise awareness on now what they're providing. And the last thing to mention is we are now looking at doing the same pilot, but in a very different setting, in a gated urban community in Cairo. And the reason we're looking into this is we want to also give an attempt or give a pilot into how would this play out in an urban setting where the income is higher, where purchasing power is higher, where frequency of purchasing is also more. How would this look like? We have a lot of gated communities in Cairo. I know this is also common in a lot of African countries as well. So this should be theoretically easier than a village because things are more contained. But we are going to find out then how the assumptions would differ. And at this stage, we've accumulated a lot of information. And we're trying to calculate and sort of just play out how does this information help us take the right decision forward. But at the same time, we want to keep making mistakes, meaning we want to keep trying things that might fail until something sparks, because we are up against a big capitalist model. I mean, it's hard to break the cycle of how big companies are providing their supply chain of products in plastic so that they can sell more and they can sell quicker. And the only way to disrupt this is at this stage, what we realize is through a community collective. So the community needs to have full buy-in. And that's what we're seeing. Our model was not providing that. A centralized model would provide it, one that focuses on these shops that are owned by the community. In a way, people from the community own them. The community knows them for a long number of years. So it wouldn't be a big shift in their behavior. It would be a small one where they purchase their products and items for. The big shift would be how they package them. I'll stop here and sorry for taking longer and happy to take any questions later.
Thank you so much, Kamal. I'm really get catched with how the community see things is different than how we as community help as we helping this community see stuff. The problem from our perspective is very different than their perspective, and also the existing informal system starting from the exchange economy where households trade PET bottles and aluminum cans for soup and cleaning products, and the shift from decentralized to centralized. Everything you have said about the community and how the project made its intervention within Dorbaid is very interesting, and it's actually a case study from my point of view. I'm a bit biased because of you and Greenish. I'm sorry. But thank you anyway. And thanks, sure, for all to our speakers. The presentation were very insightful. And now we will open the floor to the audience question, and I will hand it to Amma to take it from here.
Thank you so much, Iman, and thank you to all our speakers. Those were inspiring successes of projects across Africa. I'll take questions. We are a few minutes out, so if you would like to ask a question, kindly raise your hand or you could type in the chat. I do have a forwarded question here, so I'll read that, and then afterwards I will take questions from here. So I wanted him to unmute and ask his question himself, but looking at the nature of the question, I'll do it on his behalf. So he says, this question is to the French speaker, which is Omar from adansonia.green. And it reads, I want to find out more about the reuse sanitary parts. I didn't quite get that part well. Is it already in use or is it now about to be used? If it's in use, how are the women responding to it and how hygienic is it? Okay, so he wants to know if the reusable pads are already in use or not. And if they are, how are the women using it, responding to the use of the reusable sanitary pads, and how hygienic is this? So Omar, okay.
Bonjour à tous.
Greetings, everyone.
Vous m'entendez?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, merci. Merci beaucoup, Amma, pour la question.
Thank you very much for this question.
Effectivement, le projet a été
So this project was implemented. So it's a project that was a success in our community, and the woman really appreciated the project. And your second question, can you please repeat it?
So the first part was about it's already being implemented, and the second part is how hygienic is it?
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. So when it comes to hygiene,
par rapport à ce projet, tout d'abord, ce questionnement est venu tout au long de ce projet.
So this is a question that kept coming back throughout the implementation of the project, and we have anticipated this question. So we have really done a lot of sensitization and capacity building on menstrual hygiene. And we did not only focus on the fabrication, on the making of these pads, we also showed them how to wash them in a way that is hygienic. So once they have used these pads, we showed them how to wash them and to ensure that it is hygienic.
Nous avons en même temps, nous nous sommes approchés d'une
And
association de
we have also worked with an organization here in Senegal.
Nous avons une certification et aussi
So
que ces serviettes soient
that these sanitary pads be recognized at national level. So this is a work in progress. And so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Omar. I hope the person asking the question is satisfied with the answer. If not, you can ask a follow-up question on it. I don't see any hands yet. I don't see a question in the chat. I just see people appreciating our speakers for such a wonderful implementation of projects and people asking to implement it in their countries as well. Okay, I see a question now. It says, my question is to Frank from Upcycle It in Ghana, and it's regarding their eco-innovations cohort. Can you tell us more about the trainings? What specific topics do you train in zero waste and upcycling? Frank?
Yes. So for the eco-innovation cohorts, it's brought together young people and then women, and then we train them on how to repurpose so it was a hands-on training that we give to them. I did mention that we have tons and tons of these textile waste piling up at our rivers and then our landfills. So what we do is to give them hands-on training on how they can practically repurpose them into other valuable products like bags, like shoes. This cap, for instance, like this is upcycled. So there are so many valuable products that they make out of it they also make jewelries from it, and that gives them a source of livelihoods to complement what they are already doing. So they are able to generate income from the upcycled products that they make. So basically, we train them on hands-on practical skills that they can make from these textile waste. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. I hope you are satisfied, Abraham. That's good. Okay. So thank you so much to all our speakers. We are at time, and I know that people have other things to attend to. I would like to say a very big thank you to all our speakers and our interpreters, and also to the GAIA support team on the call. Thank you so much for making this possible. And you could reach out to any of us. You could reach out to Desmond or myself if you have any questions regarding the PSF implementations that have been presented. You could also reach out. I think the reuse group was also reaching out to people who are working on reuse. Farima is here, and there are other reuse working group members here who can assist you with anything, any questions. If you're doing something, kindly reach out to them as well. And thank you to our participants for joining in from all over Africa and the world. We look forward to you joining our next webinars and our series. Don't miss it for anything. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.